between the judge and the attorneys and Michael Cohen just saying, yes, Your Honor, a lot as they're going through stuff. There comes this moment in today's hearing when the judge asks Michael Cohen to explain in his own words the crimes he has committed and to which he is pleading guilty. The judge, Mr. Cohen, would you please tell me what you did in connection with each of the crimes to which you are entering a plea of guilty? Michael Cohen, yes, Your Honor. May I stand? The judge, you may. The defendant, thank you, sir. Michael Cohen, Your Honor, I also just jotted down some notes so that I can keep my focus and address this court in proper fashion. As to counts 1 through 5, in the tax years of 2012 through 2016, I evaded paying substantial taxes on certain income received that I knew was not reflected on the return and that I caused to be filed. And then, I won't read all the details here, but Cohen details how he evaded taxes, how he knowingly lied by omission to a bank where he applied for a loan. That loan, we later learn, he used to pay off Stormy Daniels. We'll have more on that later. But then we get to the part that led to front pages like this tonight. This is the front page of the New York Times right now. Cohen pleads guilty, implicating president. That's the front page of the New York Times tonight. Here's where that comes from in court today. You ready? Okay, Michael Cohen. Thank you, Your Honor. As to count number 7, on or about the summer of 2016, in coordination with and at the direction of a candidate for federal office, I and the CEO of a media company, at the request of the candidate, worked together to keep an individual with information that would be harmful to the candidate and to the campaign from publicly disclosing this information. After a number of discussions, we eventually accomplished the goal by the media company entering into a contract with the individual under which she received compensation of $150,000. I participated in this conduct, which on my part took place in Manhattan, for the principal purpose of influencing the election. The federal candidate in this case is the President of the United States. The election in this case is the election that made him President of the United States. And this is the President's attorney saying under oath, under penalty of perjury, that the President directed this illegal payoff during the campaign for the purposes of influencing the election. This count number 7 is the Karen McDougal case. This is the woman who used to model for Playboy magazine, who says she had a long-running affair with the president. Michael Cohen said under oath in court today that the president directed him, Michael Cohen, and also the CEO of a media company, which appears to be David Pecker, the CEO of American Media, which owns the National Enquirer. Michael Cohen says the president directed 2 of them to arrange a payment of $150,000 to Karen McDougal during the election, specifically for the purpose of influencing the election. Now, that is something that has been reported in detail, that you have heard about over months. That is now being charged as a felony, as an illegal corporate contribution to the president's campaign, one that, according to this court proceeding today, was directed by the president himself. Now, Michael Cohen is pleading guilty to his own role in that, but he is directly implicating both the President of the United States and that executive, David Pecker, in that same criminal act. So we'll have more on that in a second. But then here's the last count. And this part is probably even worse for the president, at least the way I read it. Back to the transcript. Michael Cohen. Your Honor, as to count number 8, on or about October of 2016, so the month before the election, in coordination with and at the direction of the same candidate, I arranged to make a payment to a second individual with information that would be harmful to the candidate and to the campaign to keep the individual from disclosing the information. To accomplish this, I used a company that was under my control to make a payment in the sum of $130,000. The monies I advanced through my company were later repaid to me by the candidate. I participated in this conduct, which on my part took place in Manhattan, for the principal purpose of influencing the election. Now, the reason he's saying I did this in Manhattan is because he's being charged by federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York. That's essentially establishing their jurisdiction to charge him with these felonies. When he says he participated in this conduct for the principal purpose of influencing the election, that is identifying this felony as a campaign-related felony, a campaign finance felony. So the president's lawyer has pled guilty. In so doing, he implicates the president personally in arranging 2 illegal payoffs during the campaign for the purposes of influencing the outcome of the campaign. Now, Mr. Cohen, Michael Cohen, will be going to jail for this conduct. But he's implicated the president in this criminal act as well. And then after he did that, federal prosecutors told the judge they have lots of evidence to prove this crime. The judge asked the prosecutors to summarize its evidence on these charges that Cohen has just described. And then the prosecution goes through all their evidence on all the bank charges and the tax evasion. And then when it comes to those last 2 bombshells, the felony charges in which Michael Cohen implicates the president personally, prosecutor Andrea Griswold stands up and gives basically bullet points that are a list of evidence that the government has collected to prove those charges. Quote, records obtained from an April 9th, 2018 series of search warrants on Mr. Cohen's premises, including hard copy documents, seized electronic devices, and audio recordings made by Mr. Cohen. We would also offer text messages, messages sent over encrypted applications, phone records, and emails. We would also submit various records produced to us via subpoena, including records from the corporation referenced in the information as Corporation One, and records from the media company also referenced in the information. Finally, we would offer testimony of witnesses, including witnesses involved in the transactions in question who communicated with the defendant. Now, that's the list of evidence the government says it has compiled to prove that case. They explain that they've got all that evidence to the judge today in court. But the government is not going to put that evidence on display in a trial against Michael Cohen, because there's not going to be a trial, because Cohen has pled guilty. So Cohen's plea and the court filings from prosecutors in this case, they implicate Cohen. They also implicate the president in this same criminal behavior. And Cohen's guilty plea in court today spelled it out loud in the transcript that I just read to you. It's also spelled out in even more detail in the criminal information document, which the prosecutor was just referencing there in that quote that I just read. The criminal information document became public later this evening. It spells this all out in even more detail. It describes 1 or more members of the Trump campaign coordinating with Michael Cohen to make these illegal payoffs. And this is interesting to me. It hasn't received a lot of attention yet today, but I think this is worth focusing on. The president's company, his business, the Trump Organization, also appears to be implicated in the description of this crime, because it's the president's company that is apparently the entity that reimbursed Michael Cohen for the illegal payoff. It was a $130,000 illegal payoff to Stormy Daniels. They not only reimbursed him for the payoff, they also paid him a lot more on top of just the reimbursement. It's spelled out in the criminal information document that Michael Cohen put out this $130,000 as the payoff, but then the Trump Organization, the president's business, paid him back, not $130,000. They paid him back over $420,000 for having provided that service. And that service, of course, was a felony for which Mr. Cohen will now go to prison. They paid him a lot of money to do that. I don't know if you can indict a president. I'm pretty sure you could indict the president's company. So, big day.